Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at the Feast of the Holy Family, the one celebrated on December 29th.
Hmm.
Got a really fascinating mix of readings for this one.
Yeah.
We're talking Sirach, 1 Samuel, Psalms, Colossians,
Yeah.
even a little bit of Luke in there.
Really interesting.
And the cool thing is we're not just going to be, looking at the religious stuff, but also like some universal truths about family dynamics,
Right.
honoring parents, and maybe even a little touch of teenage rebellion in there.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is how these ancient texts, they offer us, more than just historical snapshots. They give us like a lens for understanding family and faith and purpose,
Yeah.
both in their time and in ours.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Okay.
Sirach chapter 3,
Okay.
verses 2 through 6 and 12 through 14,
All right.
really zeroed in on this idea of honoring your parents. It's not just good manners here. It's like this powerful act
Yeah.
with some serious spiritual weight,
Yeah.
It says that honoring your parents atones for your sins,
Wow.
gets your prayers answered, and even brings comfort to your mother. Talk about high stakes.
Yeah, it's really important to remember the context of ancient Israel. Respect for elders, especially parents, wasn't just politeness. It was like woven into the fabric of their society.
Yeah.
It was seen as, upholding the order of creation itself, reflecting, the divine order.
So it's like honoring your parents was almost like honoring God in a way.
Precisely. And those blessings that Sirach mentions,
Uh-huh.
they weren't just material rewards. They were signs of divine favor, a way of like staying in harmony with God's plan.
That's a lot deeper than just obey your parents so you don't get grounded, huh?
Right.
It really makes you think about how even today, across so many cultures,
Yeah,
there's this value placed on respecting and caring for parents.
absolutely. The expression may change, but the core principle of filial piety, it's powerful. It speaks to the interconnectedness of
The-
generations and the recognition of what we owe to those who came before us.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
to 1 Samuel chapter 1,
Okay.
verses 20-22 and 24-28. This is the story of Hannah and her son Samuel.
Right.
And let me tell you something. This woman's faith is on another level.
Yeah. Hannah's vow to dedicate Samuel to God's service
Right.
is truly, truly profound.
It is.
In their time, children weren't just about personal fulfillment. They were, integral to carrying on family lines, inheritance, social standing.
So to give that up, to let your son essentially become a servant of the Lord from childhood,
Right.
that's an incredible sacrifice.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it speaks to a belief system where serving God was considered the highest calling,
Yeah.
even surpassing like earthly family ties.
And then there's this whole concept of Samuel being a Nazirite,
It's
which
right.
adds another layer of complexity.
The Nazirite vow entailed strict rules, no alcohol, no haircuts, and, avoidance of anything considered ritually unclean. It was a life set apart,
Totally.
wholly dedicated to God.
It's like she gave up her son not just to the temple, but to like a completely different way of life.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what kind of conversations they must have had, the emotions involved. Could you imagine a parent making that kind of dedication today?
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it? The world has changed,
Yeah.
but the essence of parental sacrifice, of making choices for your child's well-being, even when it means letting go,
Right.
that still resonates deeply.
For sure. Okay, now let's move on to those beautiful Psalms, shall we?
Okay.
We've got two optional ones here, Psalm 128 and Psalm 84.
All right.
And Psalm 128 kind of paints this picture of a blessed family life,
Yeah.
using this very vivid image of children being like olive plants around your table.
That image is so evocative, isn't it? In ancient Israel, olive trees were precious,
Yeah.
symbols of peace and prosperity and the continuity of generations. To compare children to olive plants is to see them not just as individuals, but as part of this vibrant, flourishing lineage.
It's like each child adds to the family's strength and beauty,
Yeah.
like a new branch growing on the tree.
Hmm.
And then Psalm 84 takes a slightly different angle, speaks of this yearning for God's presence,
Yeah.
finding happiness in devotion.
What's striking is how both Psalms connect the personal and the divine.
Right.
Psalm 128 links family blessings to God's favor,
Yeah.
while Psalm 84 finds ultimate joy in closeness to God. It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
showing us that our earthly and spiritual families are intertwined.
Right, like our individual lives are part of this larger tapestry
Yeah.
woven together by faith and purpose. And speaking of guidings for living,
Okay.
let's dive into Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 21, or
Mm.
the shorter version, verses 12 through 17. This passage is like a masterclass in building strong, harmonious communities,
Hmm.
and not just within families.
Paul's words here are like a blueprint for healthy relationships, urging us to clothe ourselves in compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, forgiveness.
It's like he's saying, look, if you want peace and unity, this is how you get there.
And above all,
Yeah,
love.
right.
It's not just about following rules.
Right.
It's about cultivating an attitude of the heart.
And one verse that really struck me was Colossians 3:13. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. That's so powerful, especially within families, where hurts can run really deep.
Forgiveness is the cornerstone of reconciliation.
Hmm.
Without it, resentment just festers and relationships fracture. It's not about condoning wrong actions.
Right.
It's about choosing to release the bitterness and allow healing to begin.
Yeah, forgiveness is tough, but it's like this essential ingredient for a truly loving environment.
Absolutely.
Okay, now get ready for a perspective shift.
All right.
Because we're moving on to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 41 through 52.
Okay.
This is the story of 12-year-old Jesus staying behind in the temple, totally absorbed in conversations with the teachers. Imagine the parental panic.
Oh, can you imagine Mary and Joseph's frantic search for 3 days?
I know.
It speaks volumes about the anxieties of parenthood, even in ancient times.
But this story goes beyond a simple lost child scenario, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Jesus' statement,
Yeah.
I must be in my Father's house,
Right.
is a pivotal moment. It's not teenage rebellion.
Right.
It's a declaration of his divine identity and mission,
Wow.
a recognition of his true calling.
Even at 12, he's already got this awareness of something bigger. And then there's Mary pondering these things in her heart.
Yeah.
What a beautiful image of a mother grappling with the unfolding mystery of her son.
It speaks to her faith
Yeah.
and her willingness to embrace the unknown. And notice, she doesn't reprimand him.
Right.
She holds this experience within her, allowing it to shape her understanding of who Jesus truly is.
So we've got, like, honoring parents, dedicating children to a higher purpose, and now a child who's essentially declaring his independence in the name of his true father. It's almost like we're seeing different dimensions of family here.
Exactly. These readings challenge us to consider the complexities of family.
Yeah.
The biological, the spiritual, the family we create through shared values.
Right.
They show the tensions between obedience and following your own path, something that might resonate with our younger listeners.
Right. Like, sometimes finding yourself can feel like getting lost, even within a loving family.
It's a delicate dance, isn't it?
It is.
Honoring where you come from while staying true to your own emerging identity.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes the story of Jesus in the temple so fascinating.
Yeah.
It speaks to that universal struggle of figuring out who you are and where you fit in,
Right.
even when it challenges the expectations of those you love.
This raises an important question. How do we navigate those tensions within our own families? How do we reconcile the expectations of tradition with the call of our own hearts?
That's something I think a lot of people can relate to. No matter their background or beliefs, it's that push and pull between loyalty and personal growth.
And it's often messy and complicated with no easy answers.
Right.
But maybe that's the beauty of it. It forces us to grapple with what truly matters,
Yeah.
to define family on our own terms.
And to find those people who truly see us,
Yes.
support us, and
Yeah.
help us become our best selves, whether they're blood relatives or not.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that family can take many forms, that it's a tapestry woven together with threads of love, loyalty, sacrifice, and yes, sometimes even a little bit of rebellion.
Speaking of weaving things together, remember those virtues Paul emphasized in Colossians?
Oh, yeah.
Compassion, kindness, humility.
Gentleness,
Yes,
patience,
right.
forgiveness.
It's like he's giving us a blueprint for a more harmonious way of interacting with each other within our families and beyond. Less judgment, more understanding.
Exactly. If we can extend those virtues beyond our immediate circle,
Yeah.
imagine the impact it could have on the world around us.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, there's one more piece to this family puzzle we need to consider.
Okay.
The idea of the lost and found family.
Ah, yes. This is where those seemingly disparate readings start to connect in a fascinating way.
All right, break it down for us. How do Hannah, Samuel, and even Jesus connect to this concept of family beyond blood ties?
Well, think about it. Hannah, in dedicating Samuel,
Yeah.
essentially loses her son to his divine calling.
Right.
But in doing so, she becomes part of a larger spiritual family, united by faith and devotion.
And Samuel, in turn, finds his true purpose and belonging within the temple community, a family bound by, shared beliefs and practices.
Precisely. And then there's Jesus declaring his true home to be with his Father,
Right.
expanding the definition of family to encompass this grand spiritual connection that transcends earthly ties.
So it's not just about who we're related to by blood,
Right.
but who we choose to be connected to through shared values, beliefs, experiences. It's about those who understand and support our journey.
And sometimes finding that found family requires us to step outside our comfort zones
Right.
to embrace a broader definition of belonging.
Now, before we go any further, let's pause for a moment and reflect on the implications of this idea of a found family. What does it mean for those who may feel disconnected from their biological families? Or for those seeking a sense of belonging in a world that often feels fragmented?
These are profound questions that challenge us to rethink the very nature of family and community.
And there's one more reading that adds a whole other dimension to this exploration. 1 John chapter 3, verses 1 through 2 and 21 through 24.
Ah, yes. This passage introduces a concept that could revolutionize how we view our relationships with others.
Because it tells us that we are all children of God, right?
Right.
Which, if you really think about it, makes every single person on this planet part of our extended family.
That's a powerful thought, isn't it? It explodes the boundaries of family,
Yeah.
challenging us to see everyone we encounter as a brother or sister.
Okay, mind blown. What does this mean for how we treat each other? Not just within our families, but in the wider world.
It asks us to examine our actions, our judgments, our prejudices. If we truly believe in this universal family, then compassion, kindness, and respect become not just ideals,
Right.
but necessities.
Wow, this is getting deep. I think we need a moment to process all of this.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, isn't it? This idea that we're all connected, all part of this vast, intricate family created by a divine source.
It's like it reframes everything, doesn't it? It makes those little annoyances, those differences that divide us, seem so insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Precisely. And it challenges us to reconsider our responsibilities to one another. If we are all children of God, then we have a duty to treat each other with the same love, compassion, and respect that we would offer to our own family members.
So it's not just about being nice to those we're close to. It's about extending that same kindness to strangers, to those who hold different beliefs, to those who might even be considered our enemies.
It's a radical concept, isn't it? It goes against our natural instincts to prioritize our own tribe, our own immediate circle. But that's the transformative power of this idea of universal family.
It's like it's calling us to step out of our comfort zones, to see beyond the surface differences, and recognize the shared humanity that binds us all together.
And to remember that the qualities Paul outlines in Colossians, compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, and forgiveness, are not just for special occasions or for those we deem worthy. They are the essential building blocks of a world where this vision of universal family can become a reality.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired, but let's be honest, putting this into practice can be really tough. How do we navigate those inevitable conflicts, those differences of opinion that arise even within our closest relationships?
That's where those virtues become even more crucial. They provide a framework for engaging with those disagreements in a way that preserves the dignity of each individual, even when we disagree.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about approaching those conflicts with a spirit of respect, understanding, and a willingness to listen.
Exactly. And to remember that even in the midst of disagreements, we are still connected. We are still part of this larger family.
And maybe that shared connection can become a source of strength, a reminder that even when we stumble or fall short, there's a foundation of love that supports us.
That's beautifully said. And it brings to mind that beautiful passage in Psalm 133. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity.
It's like a reminder that our differences, when approached with respect and understanding, can actually enrich and strengthen our relationships. But let's be real, there are times when those differences feel insurmountable, when those hurts run so deep that it's hard to see a way back to unity.
Those are the moments when forgiveness becomes essential, not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of radical love and liberation.
Because holding on to anger and resentment only poisons us, right? It doesn't change the past, and it prevents us from moving forward.
Exactly. And forgiveness, as we see in the story of Jesus, is not about condoning wrong actions. It's about choosing to release the bitterness, and open ourselves to the possibility of healing and reconciliation.
Okay, so we've explored the concept of honoring our parents, dedicating ourselves to a higher purpose, and navigating the complexities of family relationships. We've delved into the idea of the lost and found family and expanded our understanding of family to encompass the entire human race as children of God. What a journey.
It's been quite the deep dive. And as we approach the end, I can't help but think about Mary's response to Jesus' declaration in the temple, pondering these things in her heart.
Yeah, that's such a powerful image. It speaks to the importance of reflection, of taking the time to really digest these profound ideas and allow them to shape our understanding of ourselves, our families, and the world around us.
It's not about finding all the answers or having everything figured out. It's about embracing the mystery, the ongoing journey of discovery that comes with being part of this vast and intricate family.
And perhaps that's the most important takeaway of all, that the Feast of the Holy Family is not just a one-day celebration, but an invitation to a lifelong exploration of what it means to belong, to love, and to be connected to something greater than ourselves.
Mm.
Well, here we are, coming to the end of our deep dive into the Feast of the Holy Family.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, this has been more than just like an exploration of scripture. It's
Wow.
really been like a reflection on what family means in all its,
Yeah.
messy, beautiful complexity.
It's amazing, isn't it, how these ancient texts,
It is.
written in such different times and contexts,
Yeah,
can still speak so directly to the heart of our modern human experience.
totally. So let's take a moment to gather up those golden nuggets of wisdom, right? Those key takeaways that we can carry with us from this deep dive.
All right.
We started by unpacking the profound significance of honoring our parents in Sirach.
Mhm.
It wasn't just about blind obedience. It was about recognizing that sacred bond between generations and the divine order reflected in family structure.
Right, and it prompted us to consider how that principle, that filial piety,
Yeah.
might manifest in our own lives today.
Yeah.
How can we honor and care for our parents, not just out of duty,
Right.
but out of a deep appreciation for their role in our lives?
Then we journeyed with Hannah as she made that incredible sacrifice of
Yes.
dedicating Samuel to God's service.
Right.
It was a stark reminder that sometimes love requires letting go,
Yeah.
that sometimes the greatest gift we can give is to support our loved ones in
Mhm.
pursuing their own unique paths, even when those paths
Yeah.
diverge from our expectations.
And that story, with its echoes of ancient vows and ways of life so different from our own,
Yeah,
still resonated with that universal experience of parental sacrifice,
right.
of making choices for our children's well-being, even when it means, releasing them into the unknown.
And who could forget those breathtaking Psalms? Psalm 128, with its imagery of children as olive plants flourishing around the family table, painted such a vivid picture of,
Yeah.
blessed family life. It reminded us that children are not just individuals, but branches on a generational tree,
Mm.
each adding their own, strength and beauty to the lineage.
And Psalm 84, with its longing for God's presence,
Yeah.
reminded us that true joy comes from aligning ourselves with a purpose greater than ourselves.
Right.
Whether that purpose is found in family, in faith,
Yeah.
or in some other calling that resonates with our souls.
Right. It's like the Psalms showed us that our earthly and spiritual families are intertwined, each reflecting a facet of that larger tapestry of meaning and connection. And speaking of connection,
Okay.
we can't overlook Paul's powerful words in Colossians,
Right.
where he gave us that amazing blueprint for
Yeah.
building strong, harmonious relationships.
Compassion, kindness,
Right.
humility, gentleness, patience, forgiveness. These are the virtues that can transform not just our families, but our entire world. It's not about being perfect. It's about cultivating an attitude of the heart, a willingness to extend grace, even when it's difficult.
And that verse about forgiveness as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive.
Yeah.
That really hit home. It's a reminder that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but an act of courage and liberation.
It's about choosing to release the bitterness and create space for healing.
Absolutely. And it's not just about forgiving others, right? It's also about forgiving ourselves for our own shortcomings.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're all on this journey together
Mm.
and that making mistakes is part of, the human experience.
Then we encountered that pivotal moment in Luke's gospel
Right.
when 12-year-old Jesus declared, "I must be in my Father's house."
Yeah.
Such a powerful statement of identity and purpose.
It was.
A reminder that sometimes finding our true selves requires us to step outside the expectations of even those we love most.
And it highlighted that delicate dance between honoring our families and staying true to our own unique callings.
It reminded us that finding ourselves can sometimes feel like getting lost.
Right.
And that's okay. It's all part of the journey.
Right. It's like sometimes we have to lose ourselves in order to truly find ourselves.
Mm.
And that brings us to the concept of, the lost and found family.
Right.
The idea that family is not limited to blood ties, but can be found in those who share our values, our beliefs, our experiences. It's about those who see us, support us,
Yeah.
and challenge us to become our best selves.
And it challenged us to recognize that family can take many forms.
Right.
And that sometimes the most fulfilling connections are those we choose, those we cultivate through shared experiences and mutual respect.
And then just when we thought we'd expanded our definition of family as far as it could go,
Yeah.
1 John blew our minds wide open with that incredible truth. We are all children of God. That means every single person on this planet, regardless of background, belief, any other label we might attach, is part of our extended family.
Talk about a paradigm shift.
It is.
It challenges us to look beyond the superficial differences that divide us and to recognize the shared humanity that binds us all together.
Right.
It's a call to move through the world with a sense of like radical compassion
Yeah.
and empathy, extending the same love and kindness to strangers that we would offer to our own kin.
It's a tall order, for sure.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful vision. So as we conclude this deep dive into the Feast of the Holy Family, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
What does it mean for you
Yeah.
to embrace this expansive view of family? How might it change the way you interact with the world around you?
Right.
How might it inform your relationships, your choices, your very way of being in the world?
It's an invitation to ongoing reflection, to a lifelong exploration of what it means to belong, to love, and to be connected to something far greater than ourselves.
Beautifully said. And on that note, keep diving deep.